It's time to go inside the boardroom.
It probably is timeless. You know why? I respect anybody that was on the Warriors beat during those years.
And take a seat at the conference table.
Guru's great, too.
Welcome to The Executive Show.
Nothing easy!
On 95.7 The Game. Brought to you by Yellow Sack. Try a dumpster bag for easy waste removal. Less mess, reduce stress. Budget-friendly, clean freely. Call 833-3YELLOW or go to yellowsack.com.
All righty, let's go out to the Bud Light guest line. All guests appear on the Bud Light guest line. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bob Myers, what's up, Bob? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
We're doing well. We got the trading deadline coming up in about a week, but let me ask you this. I'm going to start with something Steve Kerr shared in an interview here earlier that he talks to James Wiseman and he kind of says, you know what, you're in a bad spot. You're young and you're in a good team, and I just you explain it. So it got me to thinking about agents and the fact that you were one. And I'm wondering, Bob, how many calls do agents make on behalf of their players to GMs wanting to know what's going on? And how many did you make on behalf of your clients in a similar situation 10 years ago?
Oh, man. A lot of times the agents are reacting to the player and what the player wants to know. So some players don't really care. You see a lot of players say, I don't read that stuff. I mean, that's probably not true. It's just how much does it affect the player. Some young players see their name out there, and it's a little bit more traumatic, which I understand. It's just a new thing for professional athletes to hear themselves in trade rumors. They feel unwanted. They feel like they're not doing something right. The more older veteran guys understand. They've probably been traded. They understand it's part of the deal. Doesn't mean it's easy. I'm not diminishing what it's like to be traded. I've never been traded. So it depends on the guy. I mean, if you were my client, you'd probably never call. You'd say, hey, listen, let me know. Guru would be calling every 2 hours. I mean, Guru would be like, what are they, So it's different depending on, so the agent, Matt, is reacting mostly to the demands of the client. And then, a good agent will weigh in and say, listen, can you just give me a heads up? If something's really happening, because there's so many different calls, and even when you think deals are done, as we saw recently in baseball, sometimes you walk right up to the line and the physical doesn't happen. So even when talks are more real, it doesn't mean that a deal's done. But then the media is so good now and wanting to be first, and it's so fast that there's this need to put out news when something's not done. So that oftentimes for a player or an agent gets a reaction. So it's different now than even 10 years ago. I guess I was an agent 12, 13 years ago. Twitter has changed everything as far as how things are reported. It was much more behind the scenes than it is now.
Bob, Steiny and I got a bet. He's got the field. I got the Warriors going back to back, and all throughout the season I come in, I'm hot, I'm excited, then I'm worried. But right now, Bob, you guys are in the 5th seed, and I know you got a bunch of stuff to attend to. But the reason I'm on cloud 9 right now, and I want your thoughts, Steiny's analytical, but I'm an eye test guy. Klay Thompson looks back. And when I say back, Bob, it's just not the ball going in. It just looks like what it used to. And where are you at? Can you describe what you're seeing from Klay? Because this is a whole, to me, long way from – when Barkley made his comments opening night to the Klay that he just seems comfortable and physically back, Bob.
Well, I'd say he's better for sure. I mean, from where he was. I think he's going to keep getting better. He came in and he, in his own words, said he didn't play a lot of pickup, probably because he was worried from what happened the year prior when he did the Achilles. So he hadn't played enough basketball, and so he's getting to do that. And you need to play basketball to get better at basketball and get in basketball shape. So he does look better, but I'm most confident and optimistic that he's going to keep getting better. I don't think he's going back to the place he was. I think that was conditioning, that was legs, that was getting timing down. And so the good news about Klay is that I do think it's just going to keep getting better. At some point, we hope he's playing back-to-backs, but certainly he had some great performances last year in the playoffs, and we expect him to do the same thing. We're going to need him to do the same thing. So happy that you're excited. A little upset that Steinmetz is apparently not. Klay,
What's new, Bob?
Yeah, I'm. I don't want to. God, no, I'm not coming. There's two sides of the floor. That's all I'm saying. All right. So things do seem to be coming into a little bit of a focus rotation wise, and I know you're not Steve Kerr, but if this small things work, you got goes for a while. You got Curry, Poole, Klay Thompson, Wiggins, Green. That's your starting five. Looney off the bench. Looks like DiVincenzo can certainly play in the postseason, and it looks like Kuminga's going to be a part of the postseason. We always talk about 8.5, 9. Okay, there's Jermichael Green. There's Lamb. Is that enough? Is that enough right now?
Yeah, that's the question. That is the question. And we got to look and see if there's something that makes sense to answer that question. Sometimes it's clear, sometimes it's not. Last year, I think, obviously, we had a better record at the deadline. We got lucky. I think we looked at a big. People wanted us to get a big, and Looney and Draymond held up, and Steve Moore went the way he's going now later on with Looney and Draymond staggered. I think he's going to that a little earlier. And I think that can help. We'll see how we play in the postseason. But, yeah, we're always, like any team, Matt, we got to see, is there someone out there that fills that spot? Is there someone in a buyout? Is there someone in a trade? Is there someone that even supplants that and becomes a sixth guy or a seventh guy? That's our job in the next 8 days.
Let me ask you this: if the goal's to win the title, which it is now, and we're a week before the deadline, and you look at this team, do you feel like you need to make a deal, or you'd like to make a deal?
Good question. Can I say both? I mean, it's not. I guess I can't sit here and say that those 8 and throw in somebody that can give you, even in the playoffs, somebody give you 5 minutes, 6 minutes, can't beat a team in a series. And it's going to sound pretty, I don't know, you can decide how it sounds, but I think we stack up good enough. That's assuming health. But you always want to add to your margin of error, Matt. You always want to, it's not a margin of error that I'm entirely comfortable with as it stands. Can you increase that margin of error? There was the years where the margin of error was so big that I could answer that question and say, no, we don't need to do anything. I'd probably lie and say, I don't. But the truth was we didn't need to do anything. And those rosters bore out and those seasons bore out that way. Our margin of error is not what it was. The record is not what it was. So I can't, comparing to what I know about the teams we've had, I'd like to get a bigger margin of error. Can we do it? I don't know. But I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does, actually.
Bob, I was in the car the other day, and I was listening to Damon and Ratto, and they had Coach Kerr on, and Wiseman came up, and Kerr, opened up and shared with us that he's had conversations with James about, how unfair it is and, him not playing, just kind of what position he's in. And that got me to thinking about you, Bob. I know life is not fair. This is the pros. But how much of the personal, and I'm rooting for James. Like, I'll throw him in. I hope he can get in and be a part of, the rotation. But how much of your job can you take the human element of it and kind of, do you feel kind of sorry for him and I'll do this? You know what I mean, Bob? If that's making any sense. Like, I know you got a job to do, but
do I want good people to succeed that I interact with every day that do the right things, that are good people? Absolutely. I mean, but it's a cutthroat deal. So it's not like you can just do that. I mean, I put you on the team. Guru, you seem like a good guy. You got to be able to play. But for James especially, unfortunately, the times that he maybe could have played, he was injured. And that's been tough. But that's the path of any young player is not mostly clean. There are obstacles to it. So, yeah, I feel bad for whether it's him or Moses or Jonathan's been up and down. But there was moments early in Curry's career where Steinmetz was covering him and AC Law was playing in the fourth quarter. And if I was the GM of that team, I would have said, this sucks. Curry doing everything right, and he's not playing. So I would say that about anybody that works hard and has a good attitude. You want to see them get opportunities. And James will, at some point, get an opportunity, and he's just got to be ready for that. We're a Looney ankle turn or Draymond. We don't have JaMychal and James, really, and especially the way we're playing now, when we're not playing Draymond and Looney much together. So you can see the exposure there if something were to happen. I don't want anything to happen to anybody, but we're not. It could be easily a situation where James is thrust into it, and that he's got to be ready to play, and that's what going down to the G League we think was good for. But yeah, these guys are people, and James has done everything right. He's a good teammate. He works really hard. I always want to see people like that succeed, just like you would or anybody would. That's the human element of it.
Bob Myers joining us on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Bob, you've been around the NBA a while. It's February 1st, and as the season goes on, there's going to be a certain buildup of people wanting information. How are you going to answer or address your contract questions that are going to come up from now until you sign?
I think you're the one that seems to ask the most consistent.
Really?
I'm getting
Is that
good
true?
practice. Yeah, I don't do a ton of media. I mean, I do this every couple of weeks, but I don't. I don't do a lot of articles. I mean, Ritter has me do some stuff.
Right.
I'm half joking, but I'm kind of serious. I'm going to say what I said to you. I'm focused on the season, and it requires all my attention, and that is the answer. It's going to be the answer. So people keep asking, and they can. I don't get upset at you asking. Anybody can ask me, and that's what I would say. So you'll get to do it probably more than everyone else. But you also got my cell phone number, so you can call me anytime.
But if you don't talk in the meantime about it, I will not ask you 2 weeks from now.
Right. Yeah.
See, that's
I guess there was some stuff written, but I don't feel like I'm not certainly hoping for those things, and I'm not writing. I'm not trying to have it be a topic. So,
gotcha. Bob,
you've known each other a long time. You can call me anytime.
There you go, Bob. I caught you with Newsom. You did a good job, man. I told Steiny I had to give you some props on that.
Oh, you watched that?
Yeah.
You watched that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Thank you. He was a good guest. He was good. I didn't know. You don't know what to expect. I didn't know what he would be like at all. I thought, he wasn't, but he was really. He was interesting. I learned a lot talking to him. And it wasn't. I don't know. People listening probably haven't watched it, but it's not super political. I tried to just talk.
You were
him.
good. Bob, you grew up going to the stadium like Steiny and I, and it was a different era then. When you went to go see a star, the Chris Mullins, the Hardaways, they were going to be in. And where I'm going is load management. It might be kind of unfair, but I heard Curry Curry the other day said he wants to play. It's not him lobbying; it's the science aspect of it. And I believe the league has a problem with it. But can you tap into when you weren't in your job? The fans that pay the money to go see Steph, and because of the science, he's not in. Do you think there can be something done or a slight change to help the fan out, or is this just the way it's going to be?
No, I think that something. This isn't just you. I mean, this is the NBA. This is the television partners. This is fans. Yeah. I mean, geez. Like you said, I grew up. If Mully wasn't playing, or Sharunas, or whoever Joe Barry Carroll, the old Warriors guard that I kind of grew up watching, I just expected them, like you guys did. They're playing. There wasn't any doubt. So things have changed. Talking to our data scientist guy was interesting. Mully, who works obviously for our organization and in the media, he actually had a question. He met with our data scientist and Eric Housen, who's great, who's very old school.
Sure.
And they are very kind of, hey, play every game guys, because that's how Mully was, and it's how a lot of people grew up watching and are. And our data scientist kind of sat him down and said, listen, no emotion in this. Let me explain it to you. And by the time he was done, and you guys can ask Mully if you're interacting with him, Mully was like, okay, I kind of understand that. Didn't like it, but understood it. As far as the game's pace, the energy expanded, has shifted from what it was.
Gotcha.
And I don't say that as an excuse. I just say you're seeing more fatigue, more energy exerted in the pace of this game. You're seeing offensive ratings explode. You're seeing you guys play basketball, so do you know the difference between if I'm guarding you and you can shoot, and the difference between that and you can't? You guys know when you're guarding a guy that's a really good shooter, what you have to cover, the space you have to cover to do a good job is much different than when there was one or two shooters on the team and everybody was kind of packed in the paint. Different kind of game, different kind of energy, but maybe more physical. So I do think it's something that the league cares about. I do think it's something the players care about. Whether it means, 3 more days at the start of the season, 3 more at the end, I don't know what it means. I don't know as far as correcting it, but I do think it'll get better because I don't think there's players that don't want to play. I don't think that's, if the fans' narrative is these guys are not wanting to play, that isn't true. So if they're wanting to play, and clearly the fans do, and the coaches do, and the league does, all we have to do is find a way where we can maybe create a little more space and figure that out. And I think it's doable.
Bob Myers joining us on 95.7 The Game. This is a maybe a little different question. So you're 2 games over 500. I don't even know if you're 4 or 5 right now. The way I would I always look at extremes. So I'm thinking to myself, my God, I mean, if things go terribly, you might have the number 2 pick in the draft, or we pick this thing up. Well, we're going to have the number 26 pick in the draft. You have had a lot of your tenure where you knew your teams were winning 60, and you were picking late first round. Like, do you invest more time and personnel and bodies on a year like this, or is it the same every year?
The range is broader, if that's where you're going as far as outcomes. I think there was a year where we were awful, and I knew we were picking somewhere
exactly
top 5. I don't know that's. Hope that doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
So in other words, you worked harder
in the middle.
I got you.
Matt. Yeah, and the other year we were in the middle, so to speak, was that play-in year where we were scrapping, and I think we ended up 39 and 33. Was it 30?
Yeah, that's right.
33. Mm-hmm. So what were we? We had losing streaks, we had winning streaks. We were injured, so we had that excuse, I suppose, to evaluate our team. But I think what you're asking is the scope is bigger. When you can't sit here and say, in years past we could say, look, our pick's going to be in the late 20s because we were 52 and 12 or whatever we were.
Right.
That's not this, and it's also not. We got the worst record in the league, which we had in 2019 or 20, whatever it was. So, yeah, I mean, it means more variability. That's our thing. What are the variables? And we have a lot of variables, but that's the NBA. That's where we are. We can't just pretend like it's going to be some awesome roster every year and everything's going to be perfect. And this is the NBA. This is probably more of what the NBA is, and you're seeing the parity.
Yeah.
That's what's complicating this deadline. And every team, not every team, many teams are doing what we're doing and saying, well, how good are we or not? I've talked to a lot of GMs, and I asked the question, what are you guys trying to do? Like, I don't even know what to do because I think we're good enough, but we're 500. But there's 6 teams that are basically 500. I don't know. Is there 7 in the West that are roughly between 2 ahead or 2 behind 500? And we lose 3 in a row, we'll be the 12th seed in a week. So that's unique. And I don't know. What do you guys think? The parity thing's interesting to me because I like greatness. But do you think the fans, is parity good? Is this what people like? I mean, do you guys think is this exciting?
Now, I'm a diehard fan, and when you root for a loser, Bob, parity is heaven because you feel like you got a chance, But if you're a champ like you guys are, then you're kind of like, oh, are we going the wrong way? But to me, whenever everybody has a chance, that just makes it more exciting. But that's just me. Yeah. Hey, Bob, you saw Sunday Brock Purdy got hurt. I'm trying to pick your brain here. And I know it's a different sport in football. And by all accounts, he's going to have surgery. Then there'll be a plan and rehab. And I'm thinking about Wiseman, who looks like Stella in OKC. He got his groove back. And I was like, okay, that was just rust. But from your experience, when a guy's coming back from injury, what's the big domino? Is it the doctor? Is it the player? Is it you guys in the science? Who has the most say-so on how much and when they come back?
Well, the ortho guy is fascinating. I've spent too much time in doctor's office. if one of you guys tore your ACL, you call me, say, who's the best ACL guy? Say, okay, that's an ortho guy, knee guy. You find him, he does the surgery. If you're an athlete, there's about 5 guys in the country that you would consider doing that are kind of these knee guys, so to speak. And I'm just using knee because it's the most common major injury. I know that UCL is more unique in baseball. I'm sure I've got friends that are baseball agents. They know exactly who the best surgeon is for that. And that's probably where Purdy's going to talk to. They're all baseball guys. And they've done this 50 times. So you got a guy like that who's a talent, you're going to the best guy to do the surgery. So that guy says, this is what I think. And then you go to the next guy. He goes, this is what I think. You send him the MRIs. Hopefully you get a similar answer. Much more difficult when you got 3 different opinions on any athlete. That's when it gets tricky, because then you start thinking, which one are we going to pick? Because this isn't clear. It's not a broken tibia or fibula or anything. These are ligaments, these are reconstructions, these are repairs. You got to get it right. Because if you get it wrong, you're really going in the wrong direction. So then you do that, and you sit down with the agent, and you sit down with the player, and your own maybe docs, and you develop a plan, the GM, the coach, and then you go with it. But in post-surgery, the surgeon will tell you he's fixed, right? I mean, he's fixed, he's better. And then they'll hand you a rehab plan, and you'll have your highly experienced and educated own trainer within your own facility take on that process. But I can't say that nobody can tell you that, sometimes you see ACL guys in 6 months. Sometimes it takes a year, sometimes a year and a half. Sometimes you tear the ACL, MCL, PCL, and people will only look at it as the ACL, because I don't know if you guys have ever done your ACL or know people that have. If it's just the ACL, it's a lot better. If you do the other ligaments, it's a different recovery. So what exactly is the injury? What did the ortho do? What do they say coming out of surgery? The other thing is I'm hearing on that is you got to look at it. You got to go in there. Okay, then you wake up. Curry had the same thing with his ankle. They said we didn't know, and he said this, and I was aware of it because I was involved in it. We didn't know what the doctor was going to do when he went in because he didn't know. So then you wake up and he goes, this is what I did. This is the plan. This is the return to play time. So then you do all of that stuff, and then you see how the guy's doing, and then it's his mind, his body. In basketball, it's very different than coming back into football. I don't know the mind of certain players. So it's so complicated. I don't know his situation, by the way, and I don't need to know it. But I will tell you, having been involved in pretty significant injuries here or as an agent, they all are very unique. You cannot say they're all different outcomes. They're all different, and you got to treat them that way. But we're more in medical terms or recovery or data. If you want to, then Guru, you might say your knee's ready, but they put you on the force plate to jump, and they test your right, which is the one that wasn't injured, and your left is 70% of your right. But we couldn't do that. That's good information. Before they'd be like, go play.
Right.
Now they go, okay, we can't let this guy play yet. So we're as good as we've ever been with the information, but I feel bad for obviously them and him. And it's such losing with injury. I've been there where you're right there and you lose a player and then you don't know when they're coming back, and that happened with Klay, and it just sucks. It's so hard. It's awful.
Bob, real quick, and I know you've already given us a lot of your time, and we appreciate it. So if I kind of understood you correctly about where we're at the trade deadline a week before, you've been the GM for about 10, 11 years. Are you saying that this one's different because there's so much parity?
Yeah, it's different, Matt, because there's less sellers, I should say. I think the league thought more teams, whether they were trying for a certain player in the draft, would be clearly out on the playoffs at this time. That is not the case. And you can pick the teams that you thought, you two can talk, who you thought is much better than playing much better than you thought they would. So that means there's a lot of teams saying, we might be able to make the play-in. Let's just go for it. Or, you know what, let's see if we can and keep it as there's not a lot of teams that are making the decision that this season is lost. And so you've got a lot of teams that might be saying to each other, we want to get better. But if 12 of the 15 teams in your conference or 22 of the 30 in the league are all wanting to get better it doesn't make for a lot of trading partners. Because usually in a trade, a team is saying, we are willingly giving you a player that will make you better, and we'll take back draft compensation or a younger player that we know won't make us better now, but might make us better later.
Right.
There's a lot of teams now that are trying to push forward as far as winning, and it's unbalanced. That's what I was talking about.
Gotcha. Hey, Bob, man,
Good
thanks
stuff.
a lot. I'm looking at the clock,
Yep.
and we blew it up, and
That's
so
all good.
I'll try to make
Like
it up
you
to you
guys.
next time, buddy.
All right.
All right, man.
All right, fellas.
Take it
care.
easy.
All right.